Welcome to CPAC Now America Uncanceled. I'm Mercedes Schlapp, and I've got with me today our great Larry O'Connor, the co-host here, joining me.
Yeah.
How's it going?
I like sitting in match
I know.
chair,
You said you had to be introduced as the great Larry O'Connor.
As you know,
it's
really Larry the Great.
It's Larry the Great.
It's like Alexander, but it's another thing.
But we're excited to be here with you. You know he's one of the fabulous radio hosts, and he joins us at CPAC every year, and you're over at WMAL.
I am. WMAL, the major talk station here in Washington, D.C., and you can stream everything we do at WMAL.com.
And you also work for Town Hall as well.
I do. I'm a senior columnist there, and we're doing great stuff. And Town Hall's growing so much.
Yeah, Town Hall's great.
And all the Town Hall websites like Red State and Hot Air and PJ Media. It's a great family of sites.
Yeah. So we like to keep Larry around because he entertains us. But there's so much going on in the news.
It's true.
Larry.
I juggle. Yes.
You juggle. Are you a clown? Is that what you're trying to say?
The least.
I loved the one. Have you seen that meme? We're going to have to put it up for everybody. But I had to put it out there because it's so funny. It's like they have the clown face, and then with every jab, they keep making it into like a full-blown clown.
It's fantastic. Yes. And it fits perfectly on Biden's face and Fauci's face.
Can I ask you, how many boosters are we all going to need?
17.
17?
Yeah.
Why 17?
I don't know. It's just a good number. It sounds like it's one of those numbers. I don't know.
I was thinking you should have tattoos. So like with each jab, it should be like number 1, number 2, number 3.
It is so ridiculous. I interviewed this morning on my show. I interviewed Dr. Marty McCary.
Now, Dr. Marty McCary.
He's from Johns Hopkins University. So he speaks in such an authoritative way because he knows what he's talking about. He's a medical doctor. He's also at Johns Hopkins University specializing in public health policy. All right. A lot of these doctors that go on the air, they don't understand public health policy.
Right.
And public health policy is a very nuanced sort of discipline to be able to not only know what you're talking about medically, but also to be able to articulate properly what we as a community of people in a nation should be doing to encourage public health. That's kind of an important skill set when it comes to COVID-19.
Yeah, I think Marty's very, very down the middle.
Oh, absolutely.
He wouldn't be viewed as like anyway extreme or anything like that.
So I asked him the question today because I felt he even said, listen, the fact is there are certain things you can't say, even though it's true, even though it's factual.
Right.
You can't discuss it within the newspeak sort of rules that we're all operating under. This is a doctor telling you
So you're
this.
saying that there's woke rules on COVID,
that
basically.
override
this is where
the truth. That override the truth about that. The truth is, natural immunity is actually much more beneficial than being vaccinated.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
Yes, that is the truth.
And that's a scientific fact.
But then why does Fauci not talk about it? Why does the CDC, not even President Biden, he's like, we've got plenty of boosters, but we don't have any tests. Did you get that?
Right, no tests, but all the boosters.
They never talk about natural immunity, and it's all about you got to get vaccinated. Then you're still hearing these people that are getting vaccinated and still getting Omicron. It's incredibly frustrating. We have to take care of our vulnerable population. That's critical. I find that Biden is doing nothing to really to give what I would think a comprehensive message of therapeutics.
Multi-pronged
approach. I actually tweeted that out yesterday.
And by the way, let's not forget, in spring of 2020, when he was running for president, he said, I've got a plan to shut down the virus. That was well before a vaccine was approved. Right. So what was this plan? Because all we're hearing now is vaccinate, vaccinate, vaccinate. He clearly had to have a plan before Donald Trump and Operation Warp Speed actually miraculously got us the vaccine. No help from Joe Biden or any Democrats. That was all the Trump administration. So what was this plan, and where is this plan? And here a year later, all we get is a shrug.
I cut you off a little bit on Marty McCary.
I
do want to bring this back because he does write an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal about the FDA and their failure to basically review these boosters that they're pushing for 12 to 17-year-olds. The FDA just approved it. They just approved it a couple days ago. They did not run it through what they would call their traditional process, which is basically allowing for an advisory board of experts, a panel, to review the data. That did not happen, yet the FDA approved it. And Dr. McCary brought up this issue, very, very concerned, saying, these teenagers, these young kids, they don't need boosters. There's not enough clinical data to give them the booster shots. I think as parents, I mean, we're in the same boat here. As parents, these are very serious concerns where you have an agency, a government agency, not following their own process to push through this booster.
Right, because they're influenced by politics. They're influenced by the President of the United States, who has just seized on this. It's the only message. I think the only message coming out of the White House about COVID is vaccinate, 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 because that's all they can rely on Joe Biden remembering. Honestly,
it's the
like,
V word.
Can you imagine Joe Biden doing multi-pronged approach to anything?
No, but
getting out of bed in the morning?
What is the deal with the fake White House set? Like, it's snowing in the back. Like,
I don't know.
It's the cheesiest backdrop I've ever seen.
Yeah, if you wanted to, have a really cool look of a White House and an Oval Office and something that looks great on television, why not use, I don't know, the White House.
No kidding.
And the Oval Office that you actually have, unless somebody else is sitting behind that desk. So back to Marty Makary, if I could, real fast, because there's certain things you're not allowed to say about this virus, even if you're a medical professional from Johns Hopkins like Dr. Makary. So here's what we have. We have a gift from God here with the Omicron variant.
I wouldn't call it a gift from God.
All right.
Are you serious?
Well, all right. Maybe that's overstated the case. But if natural immunity is superior to anything else, and the way you get through a rampant pandemic is for people to build up natural immunity, then you're looking for something exactly like the Omicron variant. We've known this since the last week of November when it came out of South Africa. We had public health officials, the person in charge, like their version of the Health and Human Services Secretary, say, yes, it's very contagious and it's spreading rapidly, but thank God our hospitalizations are pretty much the same as they've always been. It's not as severe. And so the question to Dr. Makary was, are you in a weird way kind of better off if you don't have comorbidities, if you're not elderly, if you're not obese, are you better off actually catching the Omicron variant to protect yourself with natural immunity? He said, yes.
But it doesn't,
but you can't say that.
Count. But that's the problem.
And the government doesn't acknowledge it.
It doesn't acknowledge it. You can have your vaccine passport, but you can't have your natural immunity passport.
Right.
I keep thinking that's a great business to get into. You should just do it. Go into a restaurant, be like, here's my natural immunity passport, and be like, what are you going to tell me? I mean, I'm more protected than you.
The NIP.
Where's
your natural immunity
Maybe
passport?
We start a whole agency around that as well.
That's where you make the money.
That's where you make the money.
Right there.
Not in the Let's Go Brandon paraphernalia. Okay. So,
well, that too.
But here's another interesting phenomenon that's happening. I don't know if it's actually, you've also seen some of these medical doctors and they're being censored by Twitter. So we talked about how educators are pretending like they're healthcare professionals, and now we have tech executives also pretending like they're healthcare professionals. So we saw Dr. Robert Malone. I've been following Dr. Robert Malone for quite some time. I follow a variety of different doctors to get different opinions.
Yes.
And here you go. He was permanently suspended from Twitter. He's actually the inventor of mRNA. He's raising concerns, valid concerns. Why can't we hear his opinion? Why the censorship on Twitter?
Right. Well, the answer to why the censorship on Twitter is because they're beholden to this government, specifically the Biden administration and the Democrats in charge of the House and Senate, for whatever favors big tech gets from the federal government. And so they're going to do that bidding. And also everybody in charge of censorship.
Do you think the pharmaceuticals, too, also just throw in a bunch of money to big tech and they're like, here's where you got to control, the narrative?
I have seen a lot of Pfizer ads popping through.
I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but seriously, is that where we're headed as well?
Yeah. And you've got Dr. Malone specifically saying, listen, I was in the room when we came up with the idea of the mRNA vaccines, and we never intended it for this. Ever.
Yeah, no.
That's a voice that should be heard. You may not disagree with it. You may want to add that to other voices you hear. But can't we at least hear that voice?
I think that's what's so scary in this whole process of the pandemic. It's become about fear. It's become about propaganda. It's become about you're only allowed to say certain things.
Yeah.
And that, I think, goes so anti everything that our country stands for. This is something that I hope the Republicans are going to be able to address, but they haven't even been facing these. They've been kind of quiet on these issues as well.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be right back. We've got a lot more here with Larry O'Connor.
Hey everyone, this is Matt Schlapp with CPAC, and it's my privilege to tell you that we've got a very important project that we've just announced, the First Amendment Fund. It's a brand new fund that we've created through our criminal justice reform efforts to raise money to take care of you, Americans who are being canceled and desecrated out there around the country. We know it just happened in Virginia, where parents were called domestic terrorists by the Biden administration, where people who just want to express their political views are canceled left and right. Now we have this terrible specter of a vaccine mandate where you can lose your job or be prevented from going to a restaurant or go to school according to your vaccination status. These are all the things that are happening in this country that are making people realize that America is in a fight to defend the principles that have made her great. If you want to be involved in this important effort, please go to conservative.org, click the link for the First Amendment Fund. Please donate to this C3 to help these victims across the country, including those who are just involved in politics, to make sure they have the legal representation they need to be able to live their great American life.
Welcome back to CPAC Now, America Uncanceled.
Also known as Mercedes Schlapp. I'm too high maintenance. She really is.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Not at all. She's so lovely.
I know, but we've been having this horrible snowstorm out here where those people, they were stuck in cars on I-95 for over 20 hours.
A nightmare on 95. Thank you, Ralph Northam.
Do you imagine being in a car for 20 hours?
Not at all.
I mean,
it could be insane. I took calls all morning long.
What did they tell you?
Our morning show, of course, we're their morning show. These people stuck out the expressway.
They're like,
usually
hey,
it's while they're commuting.
Larry, come shovel me out of here.
It really was like that. They were all very calm and zen, though. I was shocked.
Be.
I know. I would have abandoned my car. I would have just tried to walk. I mean, you'd find me buried in the snow like Jack Nicholson at the end of The Shining, but at least I'm not just sitting in a car the whole time.
Well, the power outages also are horrible. You didn't have power for how long?
For about a little over 24 hours. It could have been worse.
And Fredericksburg is really bad. There's certain areas in Central Virginia, they don't have power. My friends, I was like, just walk over to the main street, get an Uber, and come on over. And they're going, no, they can't. They're just concerned. I can't imagine.
I do love the fact that when Ralph Northam ran for office and when Joe Biden ran for office and whenever Democrats run for office, they always run on competence and the grown-ups are going to be in charge. We know how to run government, and we don't know. They know how to run government into the ground. It's like Atlas Shrugged out here.
Right.
Now.
Well, I haven't even heard from him. Have you heard from Ralph?
No. It turns out actually Ralph Northam was passing out cookies and coffee and hot chocolate to everybody who was stuck, but you didn't see him because his white hood blends in with the snow.
You're so horrible.
Because he had the...
Yeah, we got it.
Get it.
You get it. Yeah. Right. Okay, so...
Anywho.
But talking about what's happening here in Washington, D.C., we know that Senator Chuck Schumer actually wrote a letter. It was a scathing letter. I don't know if you had a chance to read it.
Oh, yeah. No. He's so charming usually.
So charming. And it's the whole, using the narrative of January 6th on this anniversary to basically say, well, there's an assault on democracy, so guess what? We got to pass this Freedom to Vote Act is what they're calling, because apparently, according to him, there's no freedom to vote.
Yeah, people don't have a freedom to vote.
Which means let's federalize our elections. Let's make sure there's plenty of mail-in ballots, despite the fact that you have corrupt election files.
And without ID check or without signature check.
Exactly. Yeah. You can use all sorts of IDs.
You know what puts a democracy in crisis? When people can vote illegally. Because then that cancels out those of us who are actually following the rules and have every right to vote. That's the crisis. And by the way, that's why people were angry on January 6th. That doesn't excuse what happened on the Capitol, God forbid. But there is a reason why people were angry and frustrated with the way the election took place in 2020. And what's Chuck Schumer's response? Oh, we're just going to push this thing through, get rid of the filibuster so that we can institutionalize these kind of things that piss everybody off.
And understand this, getting rid of the filibuster would mean no longer a 60-vote threshold. Right? Just by majority, they would be able to pass this major piece of legislation that would fundamentally change our voting system, our voting process.
And federalize it. Take it out of the control of the states where it belongs.
Exactly, because they're claiming, because Schumer and his little buddies are claiming that Republican governors are the ones that are threatening our democracy because, they're putting voting ID in place, making sure that there is election integrity, voter integrity. It makes no sense.
Mercedes, help me out, because I don't remember my Schoolhouse Rock exactly right. All of those Republican governors and those Republican state senators and those Republican state legislators, how did they get into office again? Didn't they actually win? Didn't the majority of the people in those states choose to put them in there?
Yes. I thought you were going to have me sing "How Does a Bill Become a Law," but that's a totally different story.
Oh, I totally
do you remember
do that.
one?
Yeah, let's do karaoke right now.
Oh, gosh.
I'm only a bill and I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. Well, all right, I'll stop.
Okay, as you know, who did musical theater? Larry, okay? I was in student government, Larry, musical theater.
The point is, you have a senator from New York who is trying to wrangle a 50-50 Senate. It's not like he is a majority leader because of some overwhelming mandate from the people of this country. He's a 50-50 majority Senate leader because Kamala Harris broke the vote to give him the majority, and he is trying to override the will of the voters in every single one of those states that have Republican majorities as governor and in the legislatures to tell you how your election should be run. And the best part about this whole thing is he doesn't have the votes to do this. Kirsten Sinema
and
Joe Manchin have already said they're not going to get rid of the filibuster in this. And so why does he do this? I mean, other than to appeal to the radical left in his party.
Well, remember, this is the promise that the Democrats made when they got into power, that they would change the voting system. That was one of their goals. And since Build Back Better failed, they had to quickly shift gears to what I would think is one of their rallying cries, but one of their big issues in their agenda items to pass this through. What scares me is that we do have to rely constantly on Joe Manchin, who has said, well, maybe we can have a carve-out of sorts when it comes to this bill. He's a big negotiator at the end of the day. So I'm going to tell you something. Build Back Better is not dead. We have to be very careful on this voting rights, quote-unquote, bill, because Joe Manchin caves in constantly, Larry. This is not going away. Kirsten Sinema, again, we're relying on two Democrats, the only few moderate Democrats left to basically ensure that we keep some sort of semblance of a democracy, of a republic here in the United States.
That's why you need to continue to stay engaged with us here at CPAC because, I mean, let's face it, we have the power here to actually make a difference in our elections to make sure that Chuck Schumer is no longer the majority leader. But we got to keep that going. All right, more on that in just a minute. But we've gone. As usual, I've taken you.
No, you're fantastic. No, we're going to toss to break real quick.
Talking. This is why you prefer Matt here because he shuts up.
No, you know what it is? My favorite is when my 18-year-old will imitate Larry because he gets to tape all these commercials and they're just so hysterical. Yes. But we'll be right back. Well, remember, we've got a
Hold on, your daughter does an impression of me?
All the time.
Does she
We've
sound
got
like
the
me?
Larry O'Connor. And
Does she
Matt
have
is
the
really
deep,
good at imitating.
Robust voice.
She can, she actually can. She totally can. She was a musical theater kid, too. So, yeah, she can imitate you pretty well.
You keep saying that in a certain way, like there's something wrong with being a musical theater.
No, it's good to express yourself. That's what you do every single day.
I'm pretty sure Ronald Reagan was an actor.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I mean, no, he didn't have jazz hands or anything.
I thought you had jazz hands. You had to have had jazz hands. Yeah, that's right. No.
I was in theater. You say things like this, and people are going to search for pictures of me in tights doing a bus and truck.
I'm going to find a photo, and we're going to post it.
I have not. There actually are.
I'm sure there are
I
photos.
have not actually performed on stage since I was 18 years old. I worked in theater.
And you miss it. And you just admit it. You miss
being on stage. But I worked in the management end of theater. I worked in management and production.
But you have to admit, radio and theater and politics.
It's live theater.
It all
Absolutely.
goes together.
It is. Well, Rush Limbaugh, the late great God. Don't you miss having Rush's voice? It's been a year. But he used to talk about that this is people used to say he's just an entertainer to sort of dismiss him, but he was an entertainer. He was really incredibly engaging. He was incredibly entertaining. And think about it, every day for 3 hours straight without a script, he just engaged all of us, tens of millions on a daily basis, and that is live performance.
It is. Well, I got to tell you, we try to go do the show without a script. That was one of the things Matt and I talked about. We really wanted to show who we are and really not have to worry about the scripted monologue. It wasn't what we wanted to do. We wanted to make sure that you all knew were able to be exposed to what we have learned the conversations we've had, give you an insider's information as to what's happening here in our nation's capital, which, oh my gosh, it's so dreary these days, I have to be honest with you. I'm ready to move to Florida.
We're going to turn around. 2022 is going to be hugely important, and it sets the table for 2024. We have not lost this country. We got to win it. We got to maintain it, and we've got to win it back so that we can actually get something done.
And it's going to take each and every one of you, and it does start in these local races. So get involved, get trained. Come join us at CPAC in Orlando, February 24th through the 27th. You can go to conservative.org to register. It is going to be, I think, I always say this, but it really is going to be one of the best events of the year, as it usually is. And, you know, I always learn so much, and I meet the most fascinating people from across the country. They inspire us, and, you know, they pretty much keep us focused on our mission and what we have to do. And you brought up a great point, Larry, which is, you know, I know it's so chaotic. It's doom and gloom a lot of times.
Yeah.
But let's stay focused. Let's stay courageous. Let's stay resilient. We've got this if we stay together.
Yeah, those young men didn't freeze their toes off in Valley Forge for us to just roll over because it's too hard to talk about what we care about here in this country. And let's just be clear. Our founders, they did not expect us to sit back and just wait to see who wins the Oval Office every 4 years. They expected this government, and they structured this government to be locally run, to be grassroots. You change your neighborhood, you change your school board, you change your city council, you change your state government. That's how you change this country. So stay engaged with CPAC. Follow us on social media. It's at CPAC. Follow Matt Schlapp at MSchlapp. Follow Mercy at Mercedes Schlapp. And while you're at it, follow me at Larry O'Connor.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Good night.